And I'm gonna do this like really wild here, and just call people out for who's gonna do that, because I don't really have a number. So, Jim, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you first. I'll get you all loaded up here. Because you came to the front, and then I was like, that guy, he wants to do it. So it's just so side by side. And the mic's already for you. No, this is like this.
Passed on the freeway and after the photograph, we'll recognize that this is our president worldwide. People that, and again, I think the attention is possible to bring this video of the past president of the group as well. And so it's kind of the whole back there, so. And this is one more, I think, that was kind of to the office. Yeah, it was definitely a good day. It was wonderful. And that's interesting. The boat driver, he was told about a kite that was standing on the steep side last summer, and was in fact swimming over the road and every once in a while. I think it was better night over there. I think you tell them or it's a little bit better view of what would in fact be a very small rock. And of course, I didn't get a mess and I didn't I remember, I think this is the European and just the best of it was. And again, my apologies for the funkiness of this, but as you can tell, that's the right hand, so all of those hairs and all of those wrinkles and everything, you know, to try to focus that camera on it. It was hard to just happen to have it in my hand. You know, again, very interesting to see all the bands and the colors. When you doesn't necessarily see the coastline. Again, I didn't think of it. The direction of the walking close to the head. Again, probably people in the room that can help.
Perfect fun.
What's it?
Perfect fun.
Okay. This is another excursion that they kind of did. We went to the George Fox Library and put on a workshop on planting the trees as part of the Cathedral Forest Project. Either Jeff that was took readings of all of that kind of stuff, and I just provided the supplies and helped with the setup. This is quite a few families that were interested in what we were doing as well, and we will be going back to the George Maxwell Library this coming spring for some more programming. So I think garner perhaps a little bit more interest in that area of the city. Another excursion, and this is with myself, we were involved with event. This was the Cathedral Arts Festival in May. And again, you can tell it's just going around the whole Ocean Park over there. So finding some nature, but also, clearly the kids and whether they could have been for the birds and the various, cards that we have. And, I think it's a good standing, and in fact, most of the lawyers that do a fair amount of the birds, even some that was quite a danger at times is heading up with the expert category. So you would that's another picture that we have related to different how we set up. The last couple of pictures were, again, not necessarily an actual, this is part of what the event was. This was view going down 12th Avenue towards the east from our Earth Safe initiative in Lorne. That's the sun getting up, and you can tell from the smoke of all of the food. Exactly, we had a, actually, one of the worst smoky days, but exactly when it's smoky. So again, this is a little part of the lawn, you can see the sun really wasn't that dark for that long, just because of the food and the smoke in the area. I think that might be really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorne. How does Kim feel about presenting it? Okay, perfect. I'll get you set up here. I was gonna say my next victim, but we've already made it. I got to this, so.
We think alike.
I should be ready for you.
I won't be far.
Hi, welcome to the meeting then. In a number of meetings. And, I have a mug of wrap. And I just thought I'd show some different color morphs of a few videos, and then one of my favorite groups, the Falcons. So this is, most of you probably know what Regina hawk is. The huge hawk that is a prairie bird. They do actually come in a dark morph as well. Pretty rare, but this one was on Highway 6 and 7 in Regina. And then this is the normal color, a white. And best thing ever invented was car sunroofs. Because for this bird, I actually was parked on the side of the road and stuck out like a whack-a-mole, I think it's called. And the bird flew from a branch and came right over the car. It was like, what is that? The next one, we're all familiar with Swainson's hawks. This is actually a second here of a dark morph. And you can confuse it with a few other videos if you know them, but I think this is pretty rare. It was just less intense, and I have never seen this color again. This is a dark morph Swainson's. They're way more common now. You can find there was a pair nesting just outside the airport. Usually, from what I've seen, it's a reddish or dark morph and a white morph that nest together. Probably also white morphs together, but the ones I've seen have always had a dark morph with them. And then this is more of a normal colored Swainson, maybe a little bit on the heavier barred side on the chest. And I love to say that if a buteo stays where it's perched and it sees your car coming, chances are it's a Swainson, because every other buteo seems to take off, especially red-tailed. They can hear you whisper, it's okay, from probably a mile away. This bird actually never left. Took my pictures, still there. This was, about 2015, 2016. I don't know if anybody remembers, we had an influx of rough-legged hawks like you wouldn't believe. I think I counted probably close to 50 in one day. They were everywhere. Just incredible. And, this one was just on Armour Road, so north, and, jumped off a power pole and flew right towards me. They were super friendly, and probably because there was more of a northern hawk and not, they don't have the fear of humans like most others. And this would be a juvenile. Just, the markings tell you that. Rough-legged hawks also come in the dark morph. Probably not as common. They're, you might see one every winter, maybe. And, as you can tell, this one is basically saying bye. They're not as friendly as the other ones. And then this is also a rough-legged hawk, but this is a male. I call these the sweater hawks. To me, they look like they're wearing a people-knit sweater. This is a red tail. I don't know, most people are familiar with the eastern. There's also western, these are subspecies. Western, Alaskan, Florida. I think there's 8 subspecies in North America, but this one is probably the newest recognized, but it was described back in 1950. It breeds in the northern part of Canada, so anywhere from across to America. And there's subtle differences to tell it from eastern, but basically the breastband is really blobby looking, and the peduncle bars, which are those little parts on the wing, are really dark and thick, and it tends to have thin tail bars. This happened, let's see, I think it was 2016. There was an influx of red-tailed hawks just along Beacon Baker Road. I don't know if anybody got a chance to see them, but there's probably close to 20 that stayed about 2 weeks. And what was different is they were the Hardings. Most of them were the Hardings subspecies, which can have anywhere from a light morph right up to a dark morph. This particular one was a really friendly bird that photographed quite a bit, and he would just hunt and scream, didn't matter, didn't care about community. This is a light morph Carlin's red tail, just out of the airport. This is a juvenile, and the way to tell is through banding in the tail. Usually you can't tell immature red tails subspecies very easily, but because of that, the markings, this one is positively identified. And then this is a dark morph red tail. Again, pretty unusual, but we saw this one up by Mesquite Lake. And then a really different one. This is actually a persistent colored red tail. So not quite albino, but looks like somebody poured bleach all over it. Really unusual to see. This one was up by, I'm going to get the name wrong, Young and Zelma, up that way by Watson. And then my last couple of slides are the falcons. I don't have all the falcons, I don't have a question, but this is a little merlin that was in my backyard. They nest somewhere in the park every year, and decided it was going to have a big stretch in the back fence. Prairie falcon was seen just outside by the Global Hub. A few years ago, just before the Global Hub got built, they had this road coming out from the area, and it had just polished off a gray partridge and was actually having a snooze. It woke up, it stretched its wings like this, and then it went back to bed. So I guess the partridge was pretty tasty. This is a peregrine falcon just in front of the ledge. We did have a pair nesting on City Hall. I know before I moved here, there was also birds nesting, and I think they had a video cam on them. The ones that we saw, I think it was starting in about 2014, 2015. Her name was Angelica, and you could tell who she was because she wore a transmitter and leggings. She was actually from Winnipeg. She was a wild-born peregrine that nested in one of the nest boxes they put out there. And this particular one was just a female that came through and with a partner decided that the ledge looked pretty good for nesting, but unfortunately she never did nest. They stayed the whole summer. And then my last slide is a fair falcon. The biggest of the falcons, they're the ones that they tend to use for falconry. This one was just outside of the Joanne Goulet golf course. And as you can see, it wasn't too early. I think it might actually be an immature going into adulthood. And that's it.
I swear that wasn't planned, the comment about, being different and her showing something. I'm gonna do, dagger, yeah. Stop on right with me, I'll set this up for you. I'm always amazed at like your guys' ability to like nature photography photos. I try and get pictures of insects all the time. You think that that would make it easier? It's not. Oh, so this way should work.
Good evening. I've been a member in between 2008 and 2019. In June 2022, just outside west of Regina, I was lucky enough to witness the badger hunting. Badger is one of my favorite species in the prairie. You don't see them too much here, it's more south or Saskatchewan, where even on regularly. The kind of species that people hate them or love them. You have not too many people in between, and actually when I saw that one guy stopped and said, "What you have to do? You get it more, you can or something like that, or you need to shoot it." No, I need to take it. So you can see that here it's depending on who you are, some of them will kill them, some of them will wipe them. So this one, actually, even after the two cup went back, one go, he didn't move, and I said, "That's fine, so usually they just run away very quickly." And after staying some time, I was wondering, what the heck is he doing? He was just watching me, and then he was running around, but not kind of, I could see was after something, but I couldn't find out what, until finally, gradually, I saw him paying more and more attention, and then carefully looking around, listening, watching again, leaving again with them, coming back. What I took this picture, look at the clothes, and you understand why they can begin so quickly and why they are so well adapted to the environment. I think the reddish color, I think it's because they have if you look at the color of the soil, it's not reddish. I think the soil tainted somehow with the and then here we start hunting, so we start to sneak around. Sometimes walking, sometimes running, stopping, sleeping. Then we went to one door then go around, stop again. You can see that here there will always pay attention to any sounds, and then stop digging. And when they dig, even you think they are slow, but man, they're just like a machine. So they just, it's very impressive the amount of soil they're moving, is just pretty impressive. And then get out of the boat, look at around, listen again. Couldn't care less about me, I wasn't the phone, couldn't care less. And then start again to go around after thinking, probably help something, look at how is very pay attention, is very focused on the sound more than anything else. Also, look at the long hair on the side of the body. I just love it. What kind of nice coat is almost when they're flying above the grass and not even running. Then coming closer to one of the walls, pay more attention. Doesn't move, just listening and sleeping. And then coming closer. And then do more digging. Then say, maybe do that one, looking around, again, listening. And then, maybe find something, start to run to another place. And then finally say, maybe that one is a good one, digging again. And finally, after roughly 40 minutes, it took me roughly 40 minutes to get one. That's it.
A lot of work to get your lunch. Okay, up next, I'm gonna get Ingrid. Just a second, sorry. Technical difficulties. Are there any videos?
Yeah, one of them.
Just one?
Yeah, okay, it's fine. And it's a very short.
This is the video. Sorry, Joe. I should be able to work on that here. Working on it. Okay, so I'll jump in when you want the video. Do you want the video first or the picture first? Okay, perfect. All right, sorry about that. Where did you go?
Yeah.
Dale and Laura connected me with the Westminster United Church wanting to install a reconciliation garden. And it's on the corner of 13th and Cannon, beside the Catholic Cathedral. And I guess they planted over 200 plants. So if this is a bit of an advertisement, if you happen to live in the area and you'd like to be, I am sure this group of volunteers would appreciate more help as I would. So it's nice to get more native plants, and all the plants that went into this reconciliation garden were native. And so then I'm getting people at this place. Okay, so we're going to hop all over the place. The next two slides is the Living Prairies Museum in Winnipeg. And the last time I have been there was in 1985, when the Lorne in Winnipeg. Now it's around we have schools, apartments, and residential. And if you look in the distance, there's a flat in which you cross,
to the plant, and I just thought this was so lovely because if it's windy or it's really hot, it's a place to rest before you head back to the parking lot in the museum. I've learned that they have a spring native plant sale, and in part, if you go on the Friends of the Living Prairie Museum, they've got newsletters, and you can access those newsletters, and some of them are really, really interesting, so I would encourage you to go on there, and that's how I found out about the native plant sale. And I kept on thinking, Dale, I didn't know you like, wouldn't you like to have a greenhouse like that right next to the prairies? You know, wouldn't that be nice? And you can see that the plants are out there to stay on, they also have compost. So I was thinking, oh, maybe you should ask Christiana if you can borrow greenhouse space. The Living Prairie Museum is owned by the city of Winnipeg. And these are just blue jays in my backyard, and I don't have fancy camera like Tim, but we have, I guess, we have the oak tree, so that's originally why it came. But the blue jays and Lorne and I have a relationship, and they come, they call out, then we put the peanuts out, because if we put the peanuts out ahead of time, the squirrels would just get them. And so that's how it works. So if you're around and you hear the blue jays, they'll come to the banister over there and call out and then they get their peanuts. So that's the only bird photos that I have. So this is gingrass in my yard, and I think this is such a beautiful grass that is undulated and it is in bloom right now. But when it goes into seed, it just looks like a mini Carl forest for the grass. The blue plant is not a native plant, but we've never had it self-seed. It's a perennial salvia, and so hopefully they will find something wrong with that one. The next few slides, while all the rest of the slides are all on milkweed and moss. And we have about 30 monarchs that made it to the Yellow Butterfly stage in our yard this year. But I'd like to first of all start with the story. This is World Milkweed at the Pilot Creek. And when I went to post it on iNaturalist, it said that it was critically imperiled. And I had actually never known that before. And the only reason that I recognized it is that 2 summers ago, we got some world milkweed and it bloomed for the first time this year. And so really the reason that I even noticed it was because my neighbor Jillian, who is here today, had said, you could come out with me so we can look at the native plants at the Pisces Creek. And I usually say there are, no native plants at Pisces Creek. And so if I had not actually gone out and looked, I might never have seen them. So about 2 days after posting this, and Chet Nico I sent it to Chet Nico because I wanted to make sure he knew what world milkweed and alert him about it. He sent it to the Saskatchewan Conservation Data Center. So now, 2 days later, I go out for a walk, and what do I see? All these people standing where the world milkweed is. And you can see it's in a field of big silver and broken grass and crested wheat grass. And I asked them what they were doing, and they said, we're putting in the pathway. I said, where? And they said, here. And I said, I don't think we can put it in there. This is world milkweed. I think we should call the Conservation Data Center. And before we proceed, and everyone already knows, it's already on iNaturalist and it's out there, so we can't pretend it doesn't exist. And so they were good enough. They were good enough to mark it off, and the pathway did indeed go around the world milkweed. So here are the seeds, and native plant. And so here we see some native plants and then say something. So that was the one small little victory. So here is monarch in our yard, the Mediterranean star. And what was interesting about this is a female, but Lawrence and I watched a male come back. Well, first of all, it was just patrolling the yard, and it rarely lands. But every once in a while, it would come to this plant to see was it going to be a bloom or not. And so that was fascinating because I think that male came back for about 2 weeks just patrolling the yard. And I guess it was waiting for this plant to open because it's a big good. So going on, I would see where we are here. The third thing society doesn't really want anyone to take caterpillars into the house. And we must rear them to make sure they are wild in an outdoor enclosure and on potted plants. And this is despite the stats that only 1 in 100 eggs laid make it to the butterfly stage. The Living Prairie Museum recommends not more than 10 caterpillars, preferably less. We must take some in. And we did take a few in, and I sort of think it's for educational purposes. No one ever experiences what it's like to see a monarch come from a cocoon. How can they really care for it? So some of those caterpillars came with Jim and me to Canada Day, and I think that they really generated a lot of interest. And he had pictures, not of that one, he had pictures of the cathedral project. I like this photo simply because the chrysalis is still intact as the butterfly came out. And I'm the person who was private here because it's easier to transport. Okay. So I have a video, we'll show it at the end, but this is now a male monarch, and what is interesting about it is that it's swatting away, and I don't know who the insect people here, could be, I have it on here, it's not a wasp, I think it might be an aphid eater, and I circle on the monarch how I can tell that it is a male with an open skin, you can see the two dots. And there could in fact have been eggs on the milkweed. And so I began to wonder if the male was actually protecting the eggs, but I've just made that up. I haven't found anywhere online that says male monarchs do that. The monarchs, most of them, we did not. She just brought a few of them in, and they really, really liked this delphinium plant. And I wanted Lawrence to show the picture that he had where we have 6 all merging at the same time. But it was very popular. And at one point, I started, maybe I'll just go back first. At one point, I started deadheading the delphinium as we do, so it will be flower, and stopped realizing I had cut 4 spent chrysalises. And I thought, well, there could be more chrysalises on this plant. So in the fall, when I went to cut down the delphinium, there were indeed 10 chrysalises on it, so in total 14 chrysalises on one delphinium plant. So I guess that's our nursery when the monarchs. And and this is almost my last slide. This is, I guess, the idea that for educational purposes. So in this case, a neighbor of mine, she brought in a lot of her caterpillars, and she noticed the wasps were eating all of them. And these were right at the very end of the season, and then there was a family emergency, so she gave me the caterpillars. And the caterpillars were the ones that came to the native plant sale in September, and then you were there and saw that caterpillar, or caterpillars. But anyway, this is now the butterfly that you all saw at the plant sale. And I was lucky enough because my son was back from England and his girlfriend. And also we had relatives of Lawrence's from BC. And Lawrence tells me that this monarch has made it to the Christmas letter. And so the Christmas letter goes out to people, of course, and they all hear about, you know, the endangered monarch butterfly. And so I think it's taught, this monarch, I think has taught a lot of people whether it is Mexico or not. And so just the video, I would just like to show it. It's 5 seconds long of the monarch swatting away the bugs. And if you could play it just a few times. Oh, it's in slow motion. Okay, let's try that again.
That looks like a leaf cutter piece to me.
Oh, okay, we have the expert lead person here, and that's it.
Thank you, Ingrid. That's such a lovely story you just shared. And I saw Lawrence was getting up. Do you want to go next? Sure. You know. I can't let him. There we go. Make sure that they're all good to go for you. Very well. Ingrid's husband, Lawrence. Oh. Sorry, I didn't realize. Why can't I go too far?
Great, thank you. So, kind of the theme of this presentation is drive-by botany, or drive-by roadside botany. And it's going to be kind of travels through Saskatchewan, Manitoba is my home province. So, usually expectations are quite low when you're driving on roads in both those provinces, where you see mainly grown grass and sweet clover and other weedy species. But sometimes, well, and even worse, somehow, the other side might show up later. But sometimes you cannot help but notice a flash of red along the highway. And in this case, this is just south of where I grew up in Manitoba. It's south of Pine River, Manitoba. And stopping to experience this. Well, this one was it's a red paintbrush. Paintbrush is that one. But this one should have been after the first one. I was traveling to Tor Hill golf course in about August, and I noticed this along the road. This is very close to the entrance to the golf course. And I looked at this and I thought, well, this looks like something I've seen in flower arrangements. And what is it doing beside the road? So it took this meeting tonight to be the incentive to put it on my national list. And that was today. And then about an hour later, Eric Lamb from the University of Saskatchewan, anthropologist, identified it as sea holly, or blue erindor, and not a native species, that's for sure. So it has been introduced, and it seems to be doing quite well along the roadside. So on to the red paintbrush with a few, Rebecca, in it. And sort of further north along number 10 highway, sort of a dramatic display of Rebecca as well. Now, every year, you know, I travel, or Ingrid and I travel to the Homestead Farm, Bullshit River. And shortly after Yorkton on the 5 highway, I usually try to stop at least once or twice a year, just beside the highway. And sort of a very small, but just a great display of meadow blazing star with various other species, like the camas and aster and a sunflower. Here's a sort of a closer look at the meadow blazing star. Also, north of Pine River, locally known as Springwater, so it's just a few steps away from the number 10 highway. And this is where we got our supply of drinking water with a pipe just along the slope along the highway. And every spring, there's this display of meadow, gold, or the marigolds, sorry. Now, growing up in Pine River, behind the farm, inside the railway track, you find these. And then the last year or two, I'm walking around Pine River, and behold, is a showy lady slipper. And I just couldn't believe it. How can this be in town? And in fact, it is in a vacant field just across the street from the Rainbow Villa retirement home. So there's a little patch just on the lower right-hand side. And one road just shortly out of Pine River, every year you see the large yellow baby slipper. And then on the road to the Duck Mountains, not very far away, the small yellow baby slipper as well. Now, one of my favorite and our favorite trips is in the Capel Valley, and just south of Kettle Lake. Along the road, not very far from the road, you can walk up the steep slope, and lots of native plants and grasses especially. And just a sort of late fall, so there was some color remaining. Now, Ingrid had shown some slides of the monarchs that emerged from the Delphinium. I thought I just add one more to this. But my monarch highlight of the summer was along the roadside taking pictures of the purple prairie clover. And as I'm focusing on the clover, all of a sudden, the monarch shows up, the male monarch shows up. So I had a kind of a split second to take this photo because it's blurred, etc., before it's taken off. And that is my last slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorne. Because I have to say something to you first, I guess. One of my earliest memories with my grandma, who was the one who kind of fostered my relationship with the environment and native plants, was that we had yellow leaves that were growing outside of the cabin at the Lower Fishing Lake in northern Saskatchewan. They're just still to this day one of my favorites. Okay, Val, how are you doing? Are you ready to go? I was gonna make you go right after Kim, and then I decided to switch it up this thing.
things like that.
Just over should work.
Person.
Oh, I keep doing that, sorry. Thank you. I keep stopping to share my screen. Okay, now for real.
Hi, I'm Val, Lorne's sister. I really enjoyed Members Night because one of the things it forces me to do is to review the year's pictures and decide which ones I want to present. This year, I grouped my pictures into three categories. So the sky, plants and insects, and animals. Saskatchewan is an amazing place to do sky photography. One of the types of sky photography is astral photography. It's something that Kim and I both very much enjoy doing. It also has its own perks. Very cold, wind chills in winter, and very comfy bugs in the summer. So it's kind of a trade-off. What do you want to do? Freeze or get? Now, this picture, unfortunately, does not show in great detail the comet ZTF, but it shows where it was in the sky and its relation to the constellation of Orion. This is actually off the back porch at our house. We weren't able to get to the grid roads because of weather conditions and other factors, and the comet was just coming to the point where you wouldn't be able to see it much longer. So we decided it's a cloudless night, let's try the back porch, even though the light pollution is pretty bad. So I just wanted you to see where it actually was. So Orion is the big circle. And then in the little circle is Mars, and just to the left of Mars was a green smudge. So the previous picture was taken with wide-angle lens. Really, to do in detailed pictures, you need a dark sky, a long lens or a telescope, and if you want to get the best of pictures, you usually photostack with an astro photostacking program. So this picture actually shows the green smudge in a bit more detail. And it was a combination of about 5 photos that were then photostacked using an astro program called Sequator. So you can actually see the green smudge. In August, there was a second full moon, or what's known as a moon. It was also a super moon, and that's when the full moon is at its closest point to Earth. Blue moons usually only occur every 2 to 3 years. Hence the expression once in a blue moon. And blue supermoons are even rarer. They occur about once every 10 years or so. So this picture, again, is off the back deck. And the clouds, really nice that night. So I thought it made a nice picture. One of the things we really enjoyed is photographing the aurora, and Saskatchewan is an amazing place to see aurora. This year, we were treated to 2 G4 level, geostorms. They're pretty rare. Usually that severity level we only see, a few times within the 11-year geostorm cycle. The last one was about 6 years ago. So we had heard through the Aurora websites that there was a possibility of quite a good Aurora show on this evening, and we headed out. It was March and it was cold. Minus 12 with 30-kilometer winds, so you can imagine how windy that was. And for the first 20 minutes after we arrived, it was one of the brightest aurora displays we had ever seen. And when you look straight up, you can actually see the aurora pulsating. So it was amazing to watch. A month later, there was another G4 storm. And what I want you to see out of this picture, which was taken at about 10 o'clock at night, facing south. So the aurora was completely over the sky and into the southern part of the sky, which is again very rare. But these two pictures were taken about 2 minutes apart. The first one, and I haven't processed, this is basically straight out of camera. So the first one, where you see it's dark and you see a bit of the green, that's actually a good aurora picture. Usually you do a bit of processing, you brighten it up, and you have a decent picture. The second picture, which was 2 minutes later, the sky just exploded. It was lighting up in the sky. It was almost daylight. And as I said, that's looking straight south. What we were looking for that evening, what we were really hoping to photograph, is something called a corona. And I'm going to read a quote because I will misquote it if I don't read it. But this is from the Aurora Live website. Corona auroras appear as straight drapes moving rather quickly across the sky. When the drape is directly over you, you get a mind-boggling vortex effect. The base of the corona is rather close to you. It's about 80 to 100 kilometers above you. And the top end of the pillars are several hundred kilometers further up. This makes the pillars appear to be converging towards the zenith and create a crown shape. Amazing. Coronas remind me of inflow, and you can see whatever shape your mind interprets. So I see birds, dragons, and angels. And the best coronas are overhead. Kim and I took a lot of pictures that night. This corona was early in the night, and you can see it's mostly green and purple. This was about 15 minutes later, and I just want to mention, I haven't over-processed this. These were the colors in the sky. And there's reds, there's greens, there's purples, there's whites. It was just an amazing display. So the next few slides are plants and insects. And I just want to mention that all of the plants are from Kim's garden. The pictures were taken where the plants were actually grown. So no plant was harmed. And nor were the birds of the leaves removed or anything else. They were left as they were. And I used natural light and a black backdrop. to get the black effect. So they look like studio pictures, but they're not. So the first picture is of a prairie lily, and this again, as I said, was from Kim's garden. When we first moved here, we bought a collection of prairie lily bulbs from a native plant store and planted them in the garden. And this is one of those blooms many years later. Interesting that a couple of the presentations, Ingrid and her husbands talked about milkweed and monarchs, because the next few pictures will be about milkweed and monarchs. So this is showing milkweed. It's from Kim's garden. We were lucky enough to have monarch caterpillars appear in the front yard on showing milkweed. We also were lucky enough to find a couple of chrysalises. Now, I just want to tell you a brief story about this particular chrysalis. The caterpillars created the chrysalis on an onion plant leaf. And unfortunately, a couple of days before the butterfly would have emerged, the leaf withered and the chrysalis fell. And we found it on a bed of grass. When we looked up on the internet whether that chrysalis would then allow the butterfly to emerge and be healthy, the advice was split about 50-50. That if you didn't reposition it, the butterfly wouldn't be able to come out of the chrysalis and hang, so it would perish. So Kim went out with a few tools, and she managed to put 2 twigs, and those are what you see, by the withered onion leaf, and suspended it across the twigs with enough room for the butterfly to be able to hang out of the chrysalis when it emerged. And this is a picture of the butterfly emerging, and it did have enough room to hang and fully develop its wings, and it flew off, and we watched it fly off. This is a second butterfly that also emerged from the chrysalis in the front yard. And this one emerged when we had a bit of a cold snap in September. So it emerged and it unfurled its wings, but it didn't fly off right away. It spent the night and then flew off the next day. And this is a picture of the butterfly flying off. Just a few pictures of animals. This picture was taken south of here, and we were driving along the grid roads. We came across a herd of moose snoozing in the warm autumn sun, and they continued to snooze. This was the bull moose of the group, and he looked to be a very big moose. Many of us have seen Dan's pygmy nuthatch. This is a picture from Dan's backyard of the little bird. Most people were lucky enough to go. The bird would come in. It's the first time they tried to see it. We were back 5 times before we finally saw it. Last March, Tim and I went for a drive south of Regina, and we were lucky enough to see a number of snowy owls. And I think last year I was able to get 3 of the best snowy owl pictures I've ever taken. This particular bird was sitting in a snowbank, and the snowbank elevated him, so the perspective is looking up. They were very nice and cooperative, and made for some nice pictures. In the spring, friend called saying there were 3 weeping cranes just south of Regina. And Kim and I went down to see if we could see them. Unfortunately, we never did find them, but we were able to find a small flock of sandhills by the road, and we're able to get a nice picture. We saw a lot of sandhills that day. In August, again, friend indicated that they'd seen moving cranes south of Regina, so we tried to see if we could find them. We were successful. We saw them in August, and we saw them again actually in October. And according to the local residents, the birds had stayed there that whole time. But as you can see, they were dots in a very hazy distance. We did see whooping cranes, and we went on our annual tour about central Saskatchewan in October, and we saw 53 individual cranes, 50 adults, 3 foals. We saw more, but we couldn't say for a fact that we were double counting. As we were sitting there watching them, there was a group on one side of the road and a larger group on the other side, and the two started calling to each other. And at one point, the smaller group walked to a takeoff point and ran towards the car. And this is the picture just as they took off. And this is the 8 cranes. They've crossed the road, they're skimming the top of the trees, and they're just about to land with their friends on the other side of the road. And that's it.
Thank you very much. And I'm not going to close the change for you. Now I feel a little bit biased, but it's nice to see insects making noise. For those of you who don't know me, I did some research on bumblebees. So I am a little bit on it. So here are already making it react, and I'm already free to go.
Well, you know, I've been involved in the nature of the again, more than paying was, but I'm quite happy to be just with them. And I'm going to show you figurine, not such, real data to our city. And that's the it's easy to find figuring out in figure. But also, if you walk around that area, you can see it's quite tiny compared to but the rest of the red breastplate because it's very cute. And these are fitting insect in the tree. And looks like I keep the engine staying in his name. And next time I start on like this, I could take a photo in the spring in the field city. Next one is just a couple of that he keeps this poster about the 2-3 minutes without the meeting. I think, it is, coming to the, some kind of demonstration against, labor, establishment practice. Red notes to there to, and, got some, on the, march. It's always happy to see, those, and, go ahead, to see these both, I use that go to south, mostly, grassland, national park. We just have, dragon fly. This photo, they behave the same way of the Cuvier to protect their nest against, against the human or some other, I was surprised. Focus, display, to fight against, female, love. And, this, screen, you could see, many, fox, in them. One visit from, you could see, Rockland. And, thing. Also, so, but, it's not, very good, but, this morning is a very surprising. I started taking a photo, four away from, from me. But, whenever I start taking a photo, he comes from, third one, second one, and, first one, move first to me. And, finally, I could take a photo within 10 minutes. So, always, happy to see, group, interview, feeling. Then, at the bottom, I could see, Lorne line. But, this year is very productive. I could find, this is, young, barn. But, I could see a 5 leg. Yes, inside, totally, I found it, about 20, barn, inside and outside of the block. In winter time, it's quite fun to have a L'Oreal and, always smiling to me. If you remember the time, you can see, this time. And, I collected, smiling, L'Oreal. People who are not. Surprisingly, he not trying to touch their mouth, we just walk and, it's, quite amazing. So, go to, you know, this one, I took a photo at, Wakana Lake, suicide, golden, long, happy day. This is, young, golden. This one, quite much. I'm always, happy to see, children, blind without life. But fortunately, I could see quite close about 10 or 15 so several of the friends. In the morning, they come to March to visit the water. And they do. And also walk you can see one cooking there. Okay, animals. I don't care, I'll see maybe, but I found sometimes should be older, but to eat something. Okay, last week, my favorite animal. Okay. I love photo very much because they always train, keep train and with something, and they enjoy life, but very much. They are always keeping talking to each other. Before diving, they have to breathe deeply, just like playing with the feet. Okay, I just want to show someone deeply.
We have a question. Do otters hibernate?
No.
The only thing I. Oh, where was that taken? Where was this taken?
Just north of, provincial. Protected. I think, two adults and one, kid, is from, I don't know, usually, mother and, two different, first year and second year, one, unlike, it's small. Okay, sir.
I saw something on the internet the other day. That I remember seeing one year you had a video of the otters. They were kind of dancing. And I saw something that said that was maybe what they do before they go to the bathroom. Like a poop. So I don't know if that's for sure or not, but I think it may be looking into. Hey, Barry, you want to come up next? There won't be more.
I'm very Regina, and my wife Valerie is here. She's the lady who we passed through the morning around. We've lived in the second Valley between London and Prairies for over 40 years. And we had this conservation house built in 1982. As you can see, it's tucked into the earth, and it's very energy efficient, and I'll eventually show you a picture from the front. But you see the valley below you. This is taken from 2011. It's one of the worst floods we had in the valley. All of the market garden land was flooded, and even that flood that comes up along Highway 20, we could still get in and out. But our background is we are science biology teachers in Regina, so that scientification is our background that we've been out there in our education, and we dabble in natural history. We've been here a number of times, not a lot of times we've been to the winter discussion also. But being a science person, I'm always asking questions and using my imagination. And maybe it's time for you to close your eyes for a few seconds, not fall asleep, but use your imagination and think back 12,000 years. And now you're awake. And from the top of the valley, there'll be water right across. The meltwater from the glacier carved this valley, as they say, at least 4 times. It used to be twice as deep, and it has filled in about half. And then, of course, the hill slumped, and eventually indigenous people came, and some of us have been here for 40 years, 100 years, maybe. So, this is probably, I hope to be back here in January, early New Year, with a full presentation about this. I have many slides about earth history and geology, geography and ecology. Another thing I'm interested in 1955, this museum opened. And a few years before that, there was a person here, Robert David, who painted dioramas in this museum. This cemetery is in Silton, it's west of Silton. And I'll read, he used the field stone that already had lichens on it, because those lichens have been there more than since he put the stone there. But if we do this up, we can read this. Robert David Simmons, 1889 to 1973. He died in 1973. And I was teaching at Shovelman's laser time. I just missed out visiting him. He was in his cottage at Silton. But he wrote poetry too. And one of his most famous books is called Hours on the Bird, published in 1967. And Stuart Houston helped that come about. And some of you might have a copy. It's a classic book for me. It's the most amazing book I have. And he wrote poetry, and I'll read this. It says, "For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is over. And beneath that is hope, Onslow is white, 1908 to 1989. And this is a special part of our history. This person is very talented. He wrote many books, and I have several of them. One thing he didn't have was cameras, as far as I know, because all of his books are illustrated. He would sketch and he would draw and he would paint. That's what he had. Okay, so here we go. Me with my iPhone. I had a more sophisticated camera before, but it was never very good. But iPhones are coming along. And I can now start taking little pictures like this. Okay, this is in our front yard, mountain bluebird, and I have a dozen pictures or so of really two pictures of birds, which I'd like to show next year to you. This is one of my specials. We have to be very lucky to find a nest with birds in it. A morning out with two chicks, and this was in the buckleberry bush just below our house, looking you in the eye, sitting there not flushing, not to get a picture. And a great story. I'll talk about my book, another book later on. This is another very famous book. Of course, this is the second edition of Wild Prairies. Vance and Josie actually came out to our land the year after we built it and walked the land. And I have two signed sheets. One by Jim Dorsey, Dr. Jim Dorsey, one signed by Fenton Vance, of the flowers we identified on our acreage. And they're tucked in volume, the first edition, this is the second edition, but it's better because it has willows in it, it has some woody shrubs in it, cut flowers. And of course, the third edition has grass in it. This is the classic thing. We all have a copy probably, and it learned a lot. Mallory cactuses or fall cactuses right behind your house, bloom every year. In my fall, you might be able to get some food. Bone flowers that are further up the hill. Just dozens of pictures of flowers that I can show you for a new year. And of course, the cookie roll. And this is taken near Hidden Valley, looking across the valley, somewhere in these willows. Okay. And another special picture, this will never happen in my lifetime, and maybe not in yours. But I've written a story about this in my books. The doe and the fawn were just in our front yard. This is taken through our picture window, looking right in front of the house. And I happened to get that, and then over the hill came the buck. And they touched noses. And look at the posture, look at the body language. And I read a story about that. Because we'll never see that again. So this is volume 2 of my books. It's called Capel Valley. Capel Valley Views. It's perspectives on life, living, and lifestyle. And this is the front of our house, and you can see why it's a classic photo. Most of the wind is on the south, tucked in the earth. Rainwater system, we have no well, compost toilets, we never used any sewage. And things like that. And I read about the house. And up on the hill, up on the left corner, you can see some solar panels. We tried the wind turbines, burnt out 2 generators, because that's enough for the solar panels. So from May to October, I don't pay anything for electricity. I use my own, goes back in. But now we have an electric car, so it keeps that one plus something else. Okay. And I'm strongly thinking next year I'll put a heat pump, because I have a backup electric furnace and we'll make it work. And I read about these things. Now, right now, top 28 is going on in Dubai. And being a science person, I'm keenly interested in climate change. And Bill Gates started Microsoft, a brilliant humanitarian. He gives away billions of dollars every year. Now, I don't think, oh, if he's worth 50 billion and he gave half of it away, he'd still be a billionaire. Right? But he's given money to help develop vaccines and to educate people and to get us through climate change before it's a disaster. Because I'm afraid that if we can't convince our governments to move in the direction, move faster, then by the end of the decade, if you think we have heat zones and drugs and all kinds of other things happening now, it's going to continue to be worse. There are solutions we have already. He convinced we will have breakthroughs by the year 2030 and 2035. We all hope to be alive then. Okay. In 2045, I'll be 100 years old. I might live long enough to see some of this. But we really have to do what we can to move this along. So I write about these things too. I have a section of my books called Philosophy, which is ecological philosophy, and I have some appendices where I really tackle some of these issues. So I think about Wayne Carpenter, his wildlife conservation book. I think about the others who produce stuff. We had Bill Schroeder and the Tree Farm book. And we have Lorne somebody who put out his protesting the prairies. And we have Trevor Terrier, a fictional book about the economy of sparrows, or something like that. And so my books are just little snippets. They're the way one reviewer talked about it. I'm just a little tributary to Colorado. But we talk about these other people, they talk about the problems, they talk about the whole problem and bigger things. But I talk about some little things that are really important to where we live. We are blessed to be able to look out of our house every morning and pinch yourself because it's surreal. And we have a hiking trail and we have 25 acres of water, we have a hiking trail. You can see all the things. I have pictures of everything in my books that I show you with black and white. And we have a little village conceptual. And we have dozens of sunsets, often they're cloudy text. But every once in a while, you get one of this, somebody talked about the smoke from Earth. You get these kinds of things here. So that's my design slide. I hope to see you in January, early in the year, with the goal to get a speaker presentation about this.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to hear more about the house and everything. Oh, this is great. Thank you very much for volunteering for a January. And he's gone.
That isn't the first slide.
I could try and rearrange them.
Yeah, that's a number. There you have seen the whole presentation. The first one's on showing, that's okay. I guess we have to-
I don't know, highlighted, but let
Yeah.
me just pull back here. Nope, that's live, yeah. The local parent order.
Yes.
I just missed a couple. Thanks for catching me. Sometimes I'm the technical difficulty.
That's it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we get started. So, I'm gonna, give a presentation about a couple of new goldenrod species that have been identified in Saskatchewan. Marina and I were lucky enough to photograph them this last year. That's not far. So just some background into how these, two new goldenrods, were identified. 3 to 5 years ago, if you found a big goldenrod, that's a meter tall, 100 centimeters tall, it had big leaves, 10 centimeters long. There were only two plants it could be, either Solidago gigantea, and you identify it because it had no hairs on its stem, or if it was a meter tall and it had big leaves, it could be Solidago canadensis, and it had hairy stems. If you can see there, just kind of shaggy stem. Well, the plant experts in the last 3 to 5 years decided that Solidago canadensis was too broad a definition of a plant. It was considered a plant complex, and it's been broken up into several new species. And as a result, Solidago canadensis is no more in Saskatchewan. It still exists in the plant taxonomy. It's a central and eastern North American plant, and it peters out, so they say, experts say, at about the Manitoba, Ontario border. So we have two new species that replaced this here in Saskatchewan. One is Solidago altissima, and the other is Solidago lepida. So Marina and I went searching for them this summer at Duck Mountain Provincial Park, and we think we found them both. We found them both. The plant experts at the Florida North America, they gave a map of Saskatchewan of where each of these plants were found. And a line from about Duck Mountain to Lloydminster, north of that, is one of them. That's Solidago lepida, that's the northern species. And south of Duck Mountain to Lloydminster, that's Solidago altissima. So we went right kind of on the edge of that to Duck Mountain. We hope to find them both, and I think we did. So first is Solidago altissima. So you can see it's a big plant. It's a meter tall. It's got big leaves, like I was saying. Now, both of these new plants are offspring, if you will, of Solidago canadensis. They have to have hairy stems. So that's the first thing we want to look at goldenrods that day. Does the plant have hairy stems? Yes, it does. That's quite hairy. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. That's a pretty hairy plant. And once you see it has a hairy stem, then how do you tell the two apart? Well, you look at the hairs on the leaf. Solidago altissima, the leaves are moderately to densely hairy, where Solidago lepida, they're hairless or only sparsely hairy. So let's have a look at that. That's the top of the leaf pardon me, the bottom of the leaf, the Solidago altissima. You can see along here. I've bent the leaf like this, so you're looking right along the edge right here. And you can see that's pretty hairy. I would call it moderately hairy along there. Let's look again at the bottom of the leaf. You can look on the main vein on the leaf, again pretty hairy. And if you look at the top of the leaf, that's pretty hairy too. I would call that moderately hairy as well. Another difference between the two plants, if you look at the inflorescence as a whole, Solidago altissima, the inflorescence should not be leafy. So yeah, there's lots of leaves below the inflorescence, but if you look at the whole inflorescence as a whole, all the different flower heads, there's no leaves sticking up among the inflorescence. So that's one way to tell one plant from the other. So we looked at a lot of goldenrods that day, and almost all of them were just plants, Solidago altissima. Some hairier than others, but they all had quite hairy leaves. At the end of the day, we found a patch of what we think is Solidago lepida. Again, that's what a meter tall. Leaves about 10 centimeters, 12 centimeters long. And what you're looking for here is you don't want to see hairy leaves. Oh, sorry, it has to have a hairy stem. So I have to zoom in a bit more to show you the hairs on the stem here, but it does have a hairy stem. So both the plants have hairy stems. Now, what you don't want to see are very hairy leaves. So there's the leaf bent over. And if you look along here, You see some hairs along the margin. You can see a few hairs along the nerve, but those along the blade here, really not very hairy at all. And what we have to do, we planned on, I'll show you another slide, this will show up here too well. We planned to bend them over like this, we planned on using clothespins to do that, but we forgot the clothespins at home. So we got to the park, we made a mad dash to the park administration office, we asked them for some paper clips. So we paper clipped and the clothespins were been heavy, they were overly for the plant. So paper clips are better, we were able to have a little bit of work, we were able to close the leaf back on itself and take it forward. So that's solidated lepida, not very hairy. We'll go back to altissimum. And that's what altissimum looks like. That's the bottom of the altissimum. You can see it's quite hairy. The lepida, not very hairy. Altissimum, pretty dark hairy. So let's look at the top of the leaf. That's solidated lepida. And there you can see one of the paper clips that's on the road. But right along the top of the leaf there, not hairy at all. You look at altissimum again, pretty moderately hairy along the top there. So lepida, not very hairy. Altissimum, pretty dark hairy. Now, the other thing I was talking about is the inflorescence should be leafy or not be leafy. So with lepida, the inflorescence should be leafy. You should see leaves sticking up among the inflorescence. And then, in fact, is what we do see. You see leaves going here among the inflorescence. And if we look at altissimum again, we do not see that. There's no leaves growing among the inflorescence. So that's lepida, and that's altissimum. So a lot of that feature you can look for between the two. And I spent a lot of time reading the flora of North America before these species of descriptions before we went out looking at them, because they're pretty darn close to describe one to the other. The other way you can tell them apart is lepida. This plant, it has tiny glandular hairs in its inflorescence and on its leaf. Now, when I say tiny, you can't see them with a loop. So those of us who amateur botanists, we all have jeweler loops that we'll go out and with 10 times magnification, we'll go and look at the ET of plants and see what's what. Well, the 10 times magnification isn't enough to see the glandular hairs. You need 30 to 70 times magnification. You need a microscope to see these glandular hairs. So these are what glandular hairs look like. This is not on solid hair. This is a very good example of glandular hairs in a plant called stonecurrant, that's a gaseous plant. And glandular hairs, and you can see the white stem, that's the hair, and on top there's a little oily secretion that is secreted by the hair. So this is a very prominent example of the glandular hairs on the plant. So this you can see with the naked eye on solidated lepida, you need a microscope to see. So I did my best with my 10 times magnification loop. I looked, I couldn't see it on the field. I was looking, these are the calyxes on these flower heads. I was looking on these, I couldn't see any. But when I got home, and with my photo editing software, I could zoom in many times, magnification. It's not perfect, but what I saw with these, those to me look like tiny glandular hairs, which you're supposed to have, which you can see through the microscope on these plants, helping identify the solidated lepida. So also on the this is again the bottom of the leaf, the solidated lepida. You should be able to see some glandular hairs along the surface here. I'm going to zoom in right there. You're going to see the tufted hair, you're going to see the nerve, and also see tiny little glandular hair. And without a microscope, I was able to see them by zooming in with my photo software. Now, I hadn't been thinking of this. Now, I have a friend who's got a stereo microscope. He looks at the plant part with the microscope. I wouldn't have been thinking, I should have cut off a few of these goldenrod heads and taken them home and looked at them with this microscope and could see for sure. But maybe that's something to do for next year. So that's it. Thank you.
Don't go too far, I have a question. I'm just gonna ask on the microphone.
Thanks again, Lorne.
I actually just have a quick question. Do you know why the plants have hairs? I'm not a botanist, I don't know anything.
Well, on that prominent example, the thought would be that it's a defensive measure of the plant, that an insect is going to see these sticky hairs, and it's not going to want to go in there. It's going to get stuck, and This, I have no idea. Tiny, tiny microscopic insects is what the only defense I can think of there, so I don't know.
No, that's very cool. I love goldenrod. I've seen a ton of insects on flowers before, when I'm not looking for anything. Oh, I stopped sharing them. Just remind myself not to do that. Thank you. We've got Dale coming up here. Take it away.
Thanks, Kurt. I love the Prairie, and Grassland National Park is my favorite park, so when I had to evacuate my house while asbestos was being removed from it in the latter part of October, I decided to spend several days hiking in Grassland Park, and so I share that with you. Now, it's a remarkably beautiful spot, even in October, but some people would probably find it a bit desolate. You could walk a ways without seeing too many things flying around, but there are many other things to look at, so I'm going to show you a lot of rocks. Rocks and lichens are in abundance in Grassland Park. Most of these pictures are the trail called Timber Gulch, which I thought optimistically there's going to be a wood coulee someplace. Nope, not a single tree on the 15-kilometer view of Timber Gulch Trail, but a lot of very nice pictures on that with a lot of control. Anyway,
It's a map.
Just rocks and lichens and ridge tops on the prairie. Very impressed with. I'm not sure how many kinds of lichens there are here. I can't identify lichens, but a beautiful pattern. And I really like this. It symbolizes something about how hardy life is to exist on the prairie. In fact, the road is going to grow in that little hole at the top of the boulder, and somehow make it go. That is just somehow that symbolizes how tough you have to be living in dry grassland. I mean, because they told me down there they haven't had a rain event that we've been in the rain in 4 years. It's a dry area at times. Love that road. And you can see how the boulder is slowly cracking, presumably from frost action with water accumulating around the roadway in years when there is some. Here is a buffalo rubbing stone. Now, most of us have seen buffalo rubbing stones, and you can see the polished edges there where it's been rounded from centuries of bison rubbing the road. The neat thing about this one, though, is you can see the bare ground from the bison rubbing on it this year. So I was excited to see an active buffalo rubbing stone instead of one that had been last used 150 years ago, like the one that was promoted. Here is a Richardson's ground squirrel. In this particular 15-kilometer hike, I saw 2 of them, so like it was just abounding. Most of them could be hibernating, but I left over. This was a stupid one. Staying up a bit later, still hungry, I guess. And about 10 kilometers into my hike, I came over Ridge Top, and there is a scene that really could have been straight from the early 1800s. Prairie extending as far as I could see in every direction, and herd of bison spread across the valley in front of me. It was an awesome moment. I've seen lots of bison, but somehow seeing bison out in a landscape like that, as opposed to through a fence at Buffalo Pound or something or other, was a remarkably special moment. In fact, that, often see bison, usually there's a couple hanging out at the end of the park, a couple bulls, but this was very special. And they're somewhat wary people. I thought I could sit in the ridge and watch them. The ones who were 400 meters away probably started a stampede. The next morning, as I was heading to the trail I was hiking, there was a herd of bison grazing on the side of the Franklin Valley right by the road. So I was closer to them, but I stayed in the car, and they did not panic by being there. Here's a couple bowls at the edge of the herd. Here's a portion of the herd that were a couple hundred by, anyway, grazing on the side, and the ones in that flat area, I noticed it looked like they were drinking, but there must be a spring coming out as they go there. So once the bison had moved well away, and I was concerned when my wandered on out to see, and as I suspected, there was a spring. Finding a leopard frog out on October 21st was quite a surprise, and saying leopard frog, I thought it could really be in hibernation by then, but he was still there, and still active. So that was pretty neat. Here, just to close off, as I was hiking, and at the end of the day here, about 10 minutes before sunset, before sunset, the low sun just turned the walls of the valley gold. It was just a remarkable moment for my photograph, doesn't do justice to the going anyway. And then a few minutes later, it was sunset, and even though I was a little bit worried about the fact that I was hiking out in the dark, I still had to stop and take more pictures of the sunset. It was remarkably beautiful. Thank you.
I don't know if any of you have been out, at grasslands in the evening, but it's like fun. So you probably went at a good time, because you saw the stupid animals.
No bug.
No bugs, yeah. And I believe the last presentation we have is Fran, unless, am I missing anyone? Fran, speak now, or for hope you can. Perfect. And I'll just load it up for you. Oh, we've got to have a few seconds.
And you've got the handle on the.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if you need a
I am trying to make you join one of the on the heels of my dad, who's really into it. The story of dad told people in the museum, I'm going to come along to watch the pictures of the such and such, and I was giving her their eyes and ran away. And now here I am. Anyways, my house was camping, if you want camping, you want hiking. And my favorite time is probably 3:30 in the morning in the summer. I'll have an hour for the sunrise. And then from there, it goes on to whenever the sun sets. You get pictures of everything. You might hear a commercial at the beginning of this. I hope it's not too loud. Oh, so before we go about the evening, we do have a draw here for, ticket set.
That's right, and, but thank you to everyone who made the donation, to have the name and to draw, and the donation period was from, given Tuesday, late November until tonight. And we have about 20 names in our bucket here. I guess, Kristen, your name's on here, so why don't you? So, you sit there and pull out somebody.
There we go. All right, Shirley Brio, for the last one, congratulations. Are you over here? Yep. Okay, perfect. And with that, that concludes the rest of our, members evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Hope you all enjoyed the evening. I know I did, learned quite a few things. Looking forward to seeing everyone in the new year.